Shalom Israel. Before I start, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Maharaka Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel who rule and teach all, to the Akims and the Iwas and Biwas and those pushing videos in truth and sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. And this is just a quick little video I wanted to do, just to touch on the type of powers that our forefathers had, When we read the scriptures and see the type of men of the Lord our forefathers were, and the powers that the Most High imparted upon them, and we look on ourselves today, we can see that we've really fallen quite far. We're nowhere near as powerful as our forefathers in the way that, the powers that the Most High imparts on us today. But today, the power that we have today is faith, which is, when we go through one of the scriptures I'm going to pull out, you're going to see that our forefathers had good faith, they had strong faith, and it's that type of faith that we need today. But when it comes to like actual powers to raise the dead and so forth, our forefathers were powerful. And first account I want to go through is of our forefather Elijah, and with this one here as well, it also shows how much what's the word I'm looking? I'll say respect. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for, but that's what's coming to my mind at the moment. How much respect the Most High had to our forefathers, certain of our forefathers, the prophets. Yeah. Now this is 1 Kings 17, and I read from verse 17. It says, "And it came to pass after these things, that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him." Says, "And she said unto Elijah, What have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance, and to slay my son? And he said unto her, Give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom, and carried him up into a loft, where he abode, and laid him upon his bed." So this lady here, if it was a Shulamite woman, her son died. So now, what Elijah does here now, he says, verse 20, "And he cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord my power, as thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourned, by slaying her son. And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord my power, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again." Now watch this. "And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived." Now, this is how powerful and how mighty and how much respect the Most High had for our foreparents. That normally when the Most High takes your spirit, that's it, it's gone. But Elijah was able to cry unto the Most High, ask him to put back the spirit into the body of this young child. And it says, verse 22, "And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived." And there's a scripture that I didn't add to this, but it's just coming to my mind reading this, where Joshua, where he was fighting, and he prayed to the Most High to stay the sun, and the sun stayed up for the length of two whole days. Can you imagine us today in the state that we're in, praying to the Most High, ask him to stay the sun, and the sun stays for 2 days? Like, we've really fallen short from grace and from the favor of the Most High. The state that we're in today, we're nowhere near like our foreparents. But what we're hoping to get back, which some of our foreparents had, is that faith, because that's what's going to carry us through at the end of the day, to help us to cross that finishing line, our faith. And that's what we're trying to get back in this day and age. It's all nice and well to be able to have those spiritual powers, but to obtain those spiritual powers, you need faith in the first place. So this is something we need to pray for, that the Most High strengthens us with, he blesses us with, and he imparts to us, faith. Faith like how our foreparents, like Elijah, believed, he had enough faith to pray to the Most High to revive the son, put back the soul of this child back into him, and the Most High listened to him. Now, this is going into Elisha now. You got Elijah. We know that Elisha, just before Elijah died, he asked for a double portion. And Elisha is very impressive as well. You know, this is what's happened here. The child has died, and he sent his servant Gehazi ahead of him. So it says, this is 2 Kings 4:31. And Gehazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child. But there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again to meet him, and told him, saying, the child is not awake. But this is another child that had died. I think this might have been the child from the first account. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. Verse 32. And when Elisha was come into the house, behold, the child was dead, and laid upon his bed. He went in therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Most High. And he went up, and lay upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Now, look at that. Yeah, he was able to lay upon the child, you know, as it says, put his mouth upon his mouth, his eyes upon his eyes, his hands upon his hands, and the child started to warm up. Verse 35. Then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him, and the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. Yeah, and he called Gehazi and said, call this Shulamite. So he called her, and when she was coming unto him, he said, take up thy son. So this is a second account of where someone had died, and our foreparents was able to bring that child back to life, that person back to life. You know, and it's only because the will of the Most High, you know, listening to them, why this child came back to life. Because if the Most High didn't want the child to come back to life, he would not put his spirit back in him. Hold on, let me quickly bring this out. This is what the scripture says. It's Ecclesiastes 12. It says, Ecclesiastes 12:7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it. So when we die, our body, our fleshly body, goes back to the earth, but the spirit that's within us goes back to the Most High who gave it. And like I said, it's quite rare, really, for the Most High to take your spirit and then listen to one of us, you know, a lowly man. But in this case, these are righteous, holy men of the Most High who he's listened to, and he's put that spirit back into that person. You know, in this case, it was 2 childs. So our foreparents, like, they were mighty, powerful people, man. They had great power. They were, you know, these are instances that we should look upon and take comfort from, you know, knowing that we come from a great and mighty people. You know, yes, the scripture says in Psalms 82:6, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But then it goes on to say, ye shall die like men, and that's because we've fallen, you know, from grace. You know, we've fallen quite far to the point where we are now. For us to call upon the Most High in situations like this, and for him to listen to us, that's going to be very rare. Yeah, especially in this day and age. What we have in this day and age is our faith. That's what the Most High is imparting to us today, our faith. Until that point where he gives us spiritual powers, what we really have, you know, which is quite great considering the amount of our people that are going to die because of the lack of faith. You know, it's a powerful thing that we have, and we can't really overlook the fact that we actually have faith. But compared to our foreparents, some of the powers that they had, you know, we're nothing like them, and they are a great example of how we should try and be, you know, when it comes to being obedient to the Most High, and how the Most High will deal with you as someone that's obedient. Now this is still touching Elisha. Now this is 2 Kings chapter 13 verse 20. And Elisha died. So this is when Elisha's died now. And they buried him. And the bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in of the year. And it came to pass, as they were burying a man, that, behold, they spied a band of men. And they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood upon his feet. So Elisha was not just mighty and powerful in life, where he was able to lay upon a child, and bring that life back into that child. Even in his death, his bones was able to revive a man that had died. This is the type of powerful foreparents we had, and we should aspire to be like them, at least in their faithfulness to the Most High. Because we know that the Most High won't reject anyone that's faithful to him. And when I say anyone, I talk about anyone of the house of Israel. This is Sirach chapter 2. It's another one of my favourite scriptures. Yes, there is many. Don't say it. I've heard it. The brothers in the body I'm with, they're always telling me, oh, another one. But the scripture is beautiful. You can't really just have one favourite scriptures, otherwise you're not really reading the scriptures. There's many beautiful scriptures that will touch different people for different reasons. So this is another one of my favourite scriptures. This is Sirach chapter 2 verse 10. It says, look at the generations of old, and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? Now Elijah called upon him, to put the spirit back, the soul back into a child that had died. Elisha was able to call upon the Lord and put the soul back into another child that had died. But he was so powerful, because like I said, he asked Elijah for a double portion of what he had. And even in his death, his bones was able to bring back the dead to life. This is kind of foreparents we have. And then we got Yahushua himself. The power that was actually running through Yahushua was immense. Now this is Matthew 9 and 20. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. So, we'll know what the hem is, but let's just quickly go into that. The hem of his garment.
Strong's G 2899, Kraspedon.
Alright, it says the extremity or prominent part of a thing, edge, skirt, margin. It says the fringe of the garment. So she touched his fringes. It says in the New Testament, a little appendage hanging down from the edge of the mantle or cloak made of twisted wool. It says a tassel tuft. The Jews had such appendages attached to their mantles to remind them of the law. So when it says she touched the hem of his garment, basically saying she touched his fringes. This is Matthew 9 and 20 again. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. And this in itself is faith. She had enough faith to think that even if I just touch the fringes of his garment, I can be made whole. He didn't have to lay his hand on me. He didn't have to say a word. I just needed to touch the fringes, his clothes that he's wearing, and I could be made whole. But Yahushua turned about him, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith, has made thee whole. So I don't think she didn't even touch his garment. That's what she had in her mind. Like, even if I could touch his garment. Let me see. Came behind him. Oh yeah, Slakia. She did. She touched the hem of his garment, but he probably felt that power, you know, going from him. But it says, but Yahushua turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith has made thee whole." And the woman was made whole from that hour. So this is why I said the Most High may not work with us in the same manner as he did with some of our foreparents, because, you know, we've fallen short. You know, we've fallen far from glory and from the grace of the Most High. But what he has given us is something just as powerful as raising the dead, our faith. And with our faith, we do raise the dead, because we go out, teach, prophesy, you know, or you might be walking down the street, wherever, you meet someone, you start to speak to them about, you know, telling them who we are. You might be showing them the curses, trying to bring these things back to their remembrance. And, you know, you do all of that through faith, you know. So it says, but Yahushua turned him about, Matthew 9:22, but Yahushua turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith has made thee whole." And the woman was made whole from that hour. And when we read Hebrews 11:1 and 2, it talks about our forefathers, yeah, through their faith, they held a good report. Yeah, so we can't really knock faith as being something really to cherish. Yeah, a lot of our people are going to die due to lack of faith. You know, you can read that in John 3:36, and I believe 18 as well. John chapter 3 verse 18. So it says, there's other instances in this chapter as well. There's about 3. Actually, let me jump up a bit. Where did I start? Yeah, now this instance here, at verse 18, Matthew 9:18, while he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler, and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. So this in itself was faith. He believed that Yahushua was able to heal his daughter. Now, when you read down, I start 23, and when Yahushua came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise, he said unto them, Give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. So these people had no faith. Yeah, that's why they were laughing, otherwise they would have known that he was able to bring her back. But when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand, and the maid arose. I think in another scripture he says, Damsel, arise. Yeah. And the fame hereof went abroad into the land. Now there's another count of faith here in the same chapter. When we read on, it says, And when Yahushua departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was coming to the house, the blind men came to him, and Yahushua said unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? Yeah, do you have faith that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith be unto you. So we can't really knock the faith that we have today. Yeah? Our forefathers, yes, they were able to cry unto the Most High, bring people back to life. Their bones were able to bring people back to life if you touched it. But one thing that they all had, which we possess today, and or we're able to possess through the gift of the Most High, is faith. Because none of the things that we read in about Elijah or Elisha would have been able to happen if none of them had any faith. So this is something that the Most High has left us with today. This is the power that he has left us with today, our faith. Our faith is really powerful beyond what we really realize, you know. And the more I'm doing this video, like, it's really touching home, really, that our faith is quite powerful. It's quite a strong power that we possess, which a lot of our brothers and sisters in the world do not possess. So it says, Matthew 9:29, then touch ye their eyes, saying, according to your faith be it unto you. Yeah, so last one I want to pull out now. This is Acts chapter 5 and start at 14. And believers were the more added to the Lord, multitudes both of men and women, insomuch that they brought forth the sick into the streets, and laid them on beds and couches, that at the least the shadow of Peter, yeah, it says the shadow of Peter passing by might overshadow some of them. Then came also a multitude out of the cities round about unto Jerusalem, bringing sick folks, and them which were vexed with unclean spirits, and they were healed every one. But they even had enough faith to believe that even if the shadow of these brothers, our foreparents, passing by, was to touch, was to, overshadow them, that would be sufficient to heal them. So, I just wanted to touch something on the powers that our foreparents used to have. And in doing this video, one thing that has come to light, which all of them have, which we have today, which is a powerful thing, is our faith. So yeah, keep your faith up, man. Yeah, it's a great power. And in time to come, let me quickly bring this up, we will get spiritual powers to be able to do some of the wonders that we read of some of these brothers doing. Joel chapter 2. Let me just quickly bring this up. Yeah, so right about now, the spiritual power that we have, or the power that we have, is our faith. But we'll get those actual spiritual powers. This is Joel chapter 2 verse 6. Before their face the people shall be much pained, all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men, they shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another, they shall walk everyone in his path. And when they fall upon the sword, watch this, they shall not be wounded. So with that, all I can say is Kalalau, Yahba Hashem Yahweh Shai, Wahara Kakadash, Kwam Yasha Allah.